The city of Ethelberg held its breath. For 3 weeks, a phantom had haunted its cobblestone streets, a ghost known only as the Cipher. The victims were always the city's elite financiers, artists, politicians found, not harmed, but stripped of their most prized possessions. What was left behind was a single, cryptic playing card, each one bearing a complex riddle that baffled the city's finest. The police were at a dead end, and a palpable fear, cold and sharp, had settled over Ethelberg. Like a winter fog, in times like these, the city had one last resort, a name whispered in desperate moments. Detective Alistair Finch. Finch wasn't a man of flashy gadgets or dramatic entrances. His office was a cluttered space above a quiet bookstore, smelling of old paper and Earl Grey tea. His greatest weapon was his mind, a labyrinth of logic and observation that saw patterns where others saw only chaos. When the chief of police finally made the reluctant call, Finch was staring out his window, watching the rain trace paths down the glass, already contemplating the puzzle that was paralyzing his city. He arrived at the latest scene, the sprawling penthouse of a reclusive tech mogul, Julian Croft. The air was thick with the sterile scent of the forensics team. Chief Inspector Davies, a man whose patience was worn as thin as his hairline, greeted him with a sigh. "Alistair, glad you could make it." He took the Star of Lyra, a diamond worth more than this building. Davies pointed to a small, velvet-lined table where the diamond once sat. Now it held a single card, the King of Spades. Finch picked up the evidence bag containing the card, his gaze sharp. On it, etched in neat, precise script, was a riddle. "I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. What am I?" Finch's lips curled into a faint, thoughtful smile. "A map," he murmured, more to himself than to Davies. "He's telling us where he's going." The previous card's a riddle about echoes left at a musician's home. Another about a riverbed at a banker's were starting to form a sequence. They weren't random taunts. They were a breadcrumb trail. Back in his office, the 3 cards lay on his large oak desk. Finch paced, his mind a whirlwind. An echo, a riverbed, a map. "He's not just stealing," Finch said aloud, the words echoing in the quiet room. "He's telling a story. Each item, each riddle, it's a piece of a larger narrative." He pulled out a large, antique map of Ethelberg and its surrounding countryside. He began to trace lines, connecting the locations of the thefts: the musician's studio, the banker's riverside mansion, the tech mogul's penthouse. Overlooking the city, the points didn't form a recognizable shape. Something was missing. Finch delved into the victims' backgrounds. On the surface, they were unconnected. A musician, a banker, a tech CEO. But Alistair dug deeper, sifting through old city archives, corporate filings, and forgotten news articles from a decade past. And then he found it, a single, thin thread connecting them all. A failed urban development project called the Phoenix Initiative. It was an ambitious plan to revitalize the old industrial district, the very heart of Ethelberg's working-class history. The project had collapsed spectacularly, leading to financial ruin for dozens of small businesses and families. And who were the primary investors who pulled out at the last minute, profiting from the collapse? The musician, the banker, and the tech mogul. They had built their empires on the ashes of other people's dreams. The name of the lead architect on that project jumped out at him. Edward Vance. A brilliant, idealistic man who had poured his soul into the Phoenix Initiative. The project's failure had destroyed him. He lost his firm, his home, his reputation. He had simply ... vanished. Finch found an old photo of Vance, a man with sharp, intelligent eyes, and a face etched with a quiet intensity. He had been a keen cartographer and a champion chess player, a lover of puzzles and strategy. "It's him," Finch declared to an empty room. "Edward Vance is the Cipher." The thefts weren't about money. They were about justice. Poetic, symbolic justice. Each stolen item represented something the victim had taken from the city. The musician's rare violina, symbol of the art and culture lost. The banker's anti-coins, the financial lifeblood drained from the community. The tech mogul's diamond, the star of Lyra, a beacon of hope that had been extinguished. And the riddles, they were Vance's signature, a display of the intellect that the city's elite had once praised and then discarded. The final riddle primera, abi cities, but no houses. Amab was the key. Vance was leading him to the final act. Finch stared at the map of Ethel. Where would a man obsessed with a city's history and his own tragic past choose for his grand finale? His eyes fell upon the old, abandoned clock tower in the heart of the now derelict industrial district, a very centerpiece of the failed Phoenix Initiative. It was the tallest structure in the old city, a monument to a forgotten time. He grabbed his coat, the puzzle pieces clicking into place with a satisfying finality. The clock tower was a skeleton against the bruised twilight sky. Finch ascended the spiraling, dusty staircase. The only sound, the creak of wood under his feet. At the top, in the belfry, he found him. Edward Vance stood silhouetted against the enormous, grimy face of the clock, the stolen items arranged carefully around him in a semicircle. He wasn't frantic or cornered. He was calm, as if he'd been waiting. "Detective Finch," Vance said, his voice steady. "I was wondering when you'd solve my little puzzle." It was an elegant puzzle. "Mr. Vance," Finch replied, his tone respectful, "but it's over now." "Over?" Vance laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "The city has a short memory, Detective. It celebrates the men who destroyed its heart and forgets those who tried to save it. I didn't steal from them. I took back what they stole from us, the hope, the art, the future." He gestured to the city sprawling below them. "They see a skyline. I see a graveyard of promises." Finch took a step closer. "I understand your anger. I read about the Phoenix Initiative. But this ... This won't bring it back. It will only land you in a prison cell. Your story forgotten all over again." A flicker of despair crossed Vance's face. "Then what was the point?" he whispered. "The point," Finch said softly, "is that you made them remember. You made the whole city remember. Now, you have a choice. You can be the ghost in the clock tower, a tragic footnote, or you can be the man who brought the truth to light. Tell your story the right way." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the wind whistling through the belfry. Then, with a slow, weary sigh, Vance nodded. He stepped away from the ledge, his shoulders slumping in a gesture of surrender. The fight was gone, replaced by a profound exhaustion. The next morning, the headlines weren't about the daring Cipher. They were about Edward Vance and the forgotten scandal of the Phoenix Initiative. The stolen items were returned, but the city's perception had been permanently altered. An official inquiry was launched. The myth of the city's untouchable elite had been shattered. Back in his office, Alistair Finch poured himself a cup of tea. He looked out the window at Ethelberg, a city no longer holding its breath. It was breathing again, changed. He hadn't just caught a thief. He had unearthed the truth. The rain had stopped, and for the first time in weeks, the sun was breaking through the clouds, and the city, like him, was ready for a new day. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this mystery, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the city.